Okay, gentlemen, we're going to stand for the pledge, and we'll get this meeting started. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, gentlemen. Ladies. Mr. Thomas.
Okay, before I get into the agenda tonight, I just want to point out, if you had a chance to look at the agenda packets, we've tried to, in an effort to help you all with the information that we provide you in the agenda packets, we have a new agenda item form. So, thank you. So every agenda item, we've come up with what we think is the most relevant information for each one of these issues. But it's, you know, it's a working form. So if you think we need something else, just please let us know, and we can change the form. But what we have now is we have all the department heads just sort of submitting something that's all in a similar form, so that when you're looking at those issues that are on the agenda, that you're getting consistent information about items. So hopefully you find it helpful. I know in putting together the manager's report, I did. The first item this evening is item number 1, the accepting an easement from the Whispering Pines HOA. We have a grant to clean out 2 of the ponds in the Whispering Pines development. However, we don't actually have a legal right-of-way or easement to one of the ponds. Dave, Sebastian, and Benny have been working with the HOA in Whispering Pines to establish an easement, and I believe that we're going to have something for council to approve prior to the voting meeting on Monday.
Great. Any discussion? Okay, Jen Adam.
Item number 2 is Oakmont Heights Phase 1. We entered into a developer's agreement some time ago with the developer of Oakmont Heights during the Phase 1 part of the project. The road had already been actually been constructed, but not accepted. KU has been, the staff along with KU has been working with the developer to fix a number of issues that they identified with the road. They have now been addressed to our satisfaction, and we have advertised the ordinance to accept the road. It was actually advertised back in June that I decided to be tabled because we didn't have a maintenance bond in place, and we're now ready to have council adopt the ordinance to accept accept phase 1.
Discussion.
One item, which Mr. Mitel brought up to me. So, and I didn't put it in my summary, but there is a storm pond in phase 1. With this development, the developer intends to dedicate these ponds to the HOA, so we're not involved. However, the pond that exists in phase 1 serves phase 1 and 2. So phase 2 is still under development. The pond is still a sediment pond. We'll address the pond issue when phase 2 is dedicated.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Fozzie?
Is said pond going to be big enough to accept all or moving phases anyway?
Sure. I mean, KU reviewed, the plans when they came through. So certainly, if they hadn't, we wouldn't have approved the plan for development.
Okay, Jen Adam.
Item number 3 is the CDBG /home program. CDBG stands for Community Development Block Grants. This is one of the longest running federal funding programs for communities. And the home program is just a component of the CDBG program. Some communities are what are considered entitlement communities, and they get an allotment of CDBG funds every year based on formula and criteria. Plum Boro is not, but Allegheny County is, and because we're in Allegheny County, we can take advantage of those entitlement funds, and we have in the past, in fact, gotten CDBG funds for many projects in Plum. We do that through the COG, through the Turtle Creek COG. If we want to participate, we have to adopt a resolution to opt into the program for 24, 5, and 6, and we've done this in the past. We've done it. It's a three-year resolution. We've done it every couple years to do it. It makes no sense not to.
Right.
Okay.
Have we utilized that before?
Oh yeah, we've gotten significant funds over the years. Now I'm going back 15 years, but we've gotten significant funds for Logan's Ferry, Renton, Stormwater.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
It says it everywhere, obviously granted demo houses.
Yeah, we that grant for the house demolition this year is CDBG funds.
So, this will be ready to adopt next week?
Yes, it's the resolution.
Okay, agenda item.
Item number 4 is another cost of living adjustment for a retired police officer. The information and recommendation from the actuaries in your agenda packets.
Agenda item?
Okay, item number 5, I'm going to ask our HR director, Jim Driano. We've been working with the personnel committee on creating what are commonly referred to as salary bands for the staff members. As we continue to grow as a community and as an administrative staff, we felt that it was important to make sure that we had, going forward, we had some logic, some rationale for the various salary levels of the various employees, and the different levels of employees. So what we've tried to do with the committee is put together No, that's mine up there, isn't it?
Yeah. That is.
She has to change it, I think. Yeah. So what we try to do is identify both how we classify or categorize different levels of employees in the borough, and this is all non-union staff. Because all the union salaries and compensation and everything is all dictated by the collective bargaining agreements. So this is all the non-represented staff. And what we try to do is identify the categories or Jim, if you can't get it up, that came out wrong. Jim, if you can't put it up on the screen, I can do it online.
Much better second.
That almost came out bad. But I can work the slides, Jim, if you need me to. So let me just do that then. Isn't it because your mic's
Here, actually, you have, it has to be mine. I made it. You need this file to present it properly.
Oh, okay, well send it to me real quick.
Jim, if you would hit the top button on the microphone.
So in any event, what we've done is we've created a very small, very brief presentation to go over how we got there, how we're choosing to define this, and identify the various salary levels. And this has been done with input from the Personnel Committee, but we certainly welcome input from all the council. We would, if you're comfortable, we would like to adopt this as a policy, and we'll have to write it in as a policy, although it won't be difficult for next week. But if not, if we had to wait another month, that wouldn't be our preference, because we're kind of way down the road here on this. But we'd like to just present what we've been working on so far with the committee. So give me 1 second here. Am I just, is this in there, Jim?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so you should be able to see it on your, can you put it on the monitors too, Jess?
It is.
Oh, I'm sorry, it is. Okay, all right, well then let's just get into it. Go ahead.
All right, just to provide some more context to what Mr. Thomas was saying, why salary bands? One, to provide some consistency and fairness in terms of salaries across the employees. Attract and retain top talent, essentially to stabilize the future of the borough. Like you were saying, we don't have a structure in place right now. And also, the average age of our administration right now is 53. So not to harp on that, it's up there. So as we continue to grow and hire in the future, it makes sense, like most organizations, to have some sort of structure in place so employees can also visualize where they can go in the company and develop, in their professional careers. So the way we have it laid out, this is a rather short presentation, so just starting from the top down, we're recommending 5 levels of job classifications here, starting at the top, executive. These people typically report directly to the public officials or are responsible
Is this
for.
not doing what it's,
Yep, sorry, click.
I have to
I keep
click
forgetting
again,
you
okay.
have this.
I have to keep clicking.
So 5.
Trust me, it's off rare air. Don't worry, it's off
You
rare
guys are doing great.
Just click.
Okay.
Okay, so
I wish this was on
There.
TV.
Very smooth.
I don't know what I'm doing, I openly admit that.
We'll have to get on Jason for this plug not working, just kidding.
Yeah.
So that's, I've explained level 5. From there, level 4, if you click again, Mike, it should pop up, and then again, these employees typically direct the operations of a department or report directly to an executive level 5 employee. The next tier, middle management, they direct operations of a specific borough function and or supervise other employees. You can proceed forward. Level 2, intermediate. These are the folks that will assist executive or senior level staff directly or responsible for key borough functions. And finally, level 1 is support entry level, where these positions will typically perform routine tasks and assignments. They don't have any supervisor responsibilities, no discretionary authority. So that's sort of like the framework behind the band structure. If you go on to the next slide, Mike, what that turns into is our proposed band structure, salary ranges, and essentially what we're asking council to consider is this slide here. And these numbers are based on a significant amount of research, which I'll explain on the next slide, but you'll have this in your agenda package to discuss. And this is based on market research that I've conducted over the last few months. Pretty extensive, a lot of work went into it. There's a lot of behind the scenes framework that we can get into at a later date if we need to, but if you go to the next slide, Mike, just to give you some context on where this is coming from, significant weight was given to the 2 sources at the top, one being ALOM, Allegheny League of Municipalities. It's a survey that the borough participates in on an annual basis, and pretty much every municipality participates in it. And it's a salary, compensation and benefits survey, and we've utilized that data. We get a hard copy binder every year in the office to go over. We utilize that data relative to communities that have comparable population numbers and things like that. The Bureau of Labor Statistics, very reputable source, I read, so we utilize that. The best part about that source is that you can actually drill down into the local government industry sector to get a more accurate idea of what people are being paid in different positions. So that was very helpful. And then we didn't give as much weight to other smaller sources like Glassdoor, but we wanted to kind of provide a comprehensive review of market value salaries. So that all culminated in.
What is Glassdoor? I've never heard that.
So it's a public website database where people can go on and rate jobs that they've had, post their salaries anonymously. Glassdoor, you can see through the business, if you will. So yeah, that's where the information behind the scenes is coming from. And then the final slide, that culminates in our band structure that we've laid out, if you can see that. Just kind of aligning the titles of employees here with their respective bands. The borough manager, example, borough manager, chief of police, assistant manager at the executive level, all the way down through to, you know, a secretary or administrative assistant down at the support entry level.
So those 5 categories actually, you know, obviously correspond to the 5 definitions that we went through on the slides that I screwed up. So if you go back and if you want to compare, you know, the definition of what a entry-level position means, and what we try to do is keep them very concise and very clear, so that it's easy to place someone in a category or a level. It's not always perfect. There's a lot of muddy areas, a lot of gray areas, a lot of these things, as you know. But this is what we've come up with so far. Again, working with the personnel committee. We have not shared this with the staff yet, because I wanted to have something with council that you all were comfortable with before I take it to staff, because I don't want to have to go to staff and then come back to you guys and have a conflict. And obviously, you guys are the final say-so in all this. So that's why I wanted to have to bring it to you guys first. This is in the agenda package, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
it's on our laptops.
Well, let me say this, I think this is long overdue, and I think it's a step in the right direction. The one thing I did notice that I would just, and listen, I'm just throwing it out there, see if it sticks. When you had the salaries listed, you had like the high end of a senior employee making more than an executive. I don't think those numbers should overlap, just to avoid any future.
Oh, so
There's just an overlap there.
So here's,
I can provide a comment, just so.
Yeah, like see the high end of the 4 senior leaderships is 145, and executives blower is 130. That could cost some animosity.
Makes sense. I can speak to it. I'm not saying that I'm right or you're, but
Right.
overlap in these types of structures are common. You don't always need them. However, a rationale when we talked about this was, for instance, let's say there's a senior leader at level 4 that's been here for 20 years and he does make it to eventually to the top tier. If we say we have to hire a new executive, just because he's above senior leadership, maybe this person's only has 5 years experience and we only want to hire them at the low end at 130. That crossover provides sort of, there's a lot that went into it. There's a whole range of
That's
numbers.
fine, as long as it's addressed, that's
Yeah,
cool, I'm fine.
there's a rationale. It's
Right, that's fine.
I have to articulate that better by the.
No, it makes
what I
sense.
mean, but
And one of the other issues is, we also had to take into account existing salaries.
Okay.
Yeah, we talked about it. I actually think we might need some more overlap rather than less.
Yeah, and that's,
Couple
yeah,
of
so
them
you guys,
small.
please, please,
You gotta have some.
we welcome your input, but part of the reason, was that, we have people, because of where people are right now, so people that might be in a level 3 that has been here quite a while might be making in that area, and we can't put them in level 3 and then not have the salary band reference what they're actually making, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So,
As long as it was addressed, that's fine.
This is our salary band, the people that are already here, not.
no, these numbers reflect what we're recommending that you should adopt for them. All of the employees fit somewhere in there, yes.
That's what I mean.
Yes.
That's what I mean.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not like just an arbitrary number. It is a relationship to what we have here.
Correct. That is a component of
Right.
the rationale.
And they used A-long in their labor.
Yes.
Great.
I like the source.
Well done, yourself.
Is band 3 the term middle management? I could have a negative connotation to it. I don't know what would be a better word.
these were our starting points. Like we're open to
Well,
ideas
that's what I
on
figured.
yeah,
Just as a
naming.
therapist pointed out there, that middle management isn't necessarily like, yay, I'm in middle management, you know? So I don't know.
It could just be management for quite honestly,
Exactly.
that works.
You know, that's what I mean. Like a little tweak there, I think, would make it more palatable for people. Otherwise, I think it's an excellent job.
So, if this is something, you guys are comfortable, and listen, this is a policy like any other policy, so it can be amended, just like we've been doing with our rental policy. Every 2 or 3 months, we keep amending it as we work on it, so,
Well, there's always exceptions to the
Yes.
policy that we find out later.
yes. So, I would just like, if you, so I guess the question is, do you want this to be an agenda item next week?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Agenda.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Good job, Jim.
Okay, I'm gonna try to.
Sorry,
I will say that if Jim had been managing the computer, he would have handled the slides much better than I did, I agree.
We're aware.
You should get on Jason about what.
All right, let's get this going.
Okay, all right, so item number 6 is an executive session item. It's only executive session in the sense that we need to discuss the salary before it becomes public. But it is, back in 2022, just briefly, we, in meeting with the Personnel Committee, one of the things that the Personnel Committee charged me with doing was increasing the code enforcement staff to have additional code enforcement officers, but specifically because right now we have two building inspectors, 1 building code official. That one of those building inspectors also does code enforcement. So code enforcement, unfortunately, becomes, I don't want to say it's an afterthought because that's not accurate, but it's not that person's full-time job. And we do think that there's enough with 12,000 properties in Plum that, you know, we need a full-time code enforcement officer. When the personnel committee charged us with creating that position and finding it, we were still in the old building, we had no room, we literally had, as everybody knows, we had nowhere to put them. So we kind of put that on the back burner until we got to the new building. Obviously, we're in the new building, we're ready to move, so, and fortuitously for us, the retiring Plum traffic officer approached us about additional employment opportunities with the borough. So Mike DeMarco is the recommendation from everybody for the new code enforcement officer. So that would be the motion for Monday, notwithstanding the salary we would have to talk about in executive session.
Great, okay.
Item number 7. Item number 7 is the civil service ordinance. We talked about at both the June and July meetings. Council authorizes to advertise the changes in the minimum test scores for the written exams for all written exams. So that is entry level and first, second, and third level supervisors exams, to reduce the minimum passing score from 85 to 75. Because that's part of the civil service regulations that is done by ordinance, that has been advertised, and you would be in a position next Monday to adopt the ordinance and put those changes into effect.
Discussion? Okay, Jenna.
Item number 8 is one of the most confusing change orders in my 30-year history. So, maybe convoluted, I don't know about confusing, but. So, you'll remember that when we were doing the phase 3 of Renton Park, that involves the pickleball courts, the redoing of the basketball court and parking area and a bathroom. We had originally proposed to purchase a precast bathroom unit off of CoStar's. The cost was a little bit pricey, that we thought was anyway. And in discussing things with the architect, he felt that we could design something to be added as a change order to the contract for less than $100,000. So we gave the architectural drawings to the contractor, who came back with $215,000. So borough rejected. So the staff rejected. We didn't think he would even consider that, so we just told him no thanks. So we're kind of back to the drawing board on this one here. We're still evaluating what we can do. The contractor has asked for a chance to revise his change order. Well, but that remains to be seen. But, so in any event, because this was a tabled item from last month, it's still on the agenda for this month. I don't know that we'll have a new number from the contractor between now and Monday, but I would suggest that we keep it on the agenda again and table it, assuming that we have either no new number or not a number that you're willing to consider.
Okay, Jenna.
So if we don't wait for the number, just go ahead with the precast one, we'll be able to get it done this year?
No, so the lead time for the precast is about 5 to 6 months.
Okay.
So the bathroom is not going to get done. Well, I mean, we could get if he's going to stick build it, we could get that done this year. But the precast, the lead time is 5 to 6 months.
So the only chance to get it done is if he comes back
With a decent number. Correct. And right now the precast is about 115, so he's got to be in that ballpark to, and I don't know he's going to come. I don't know if he's going to knock $100,000 off his price, but I don't know if he's watching on YouTube right now. So we suggest that we leave it on the agenda, just in the event that we either can take action on or table it.
Who was the contractor?
WG Land Company from Champion, PA. And one of the issues is that when they're pricing out this change order, they're talking to contractors in Champion, PA, that would have to travel down here every day. So I'm sure that's part of the issue for their high number, but I think I told Mike we're sort of skeptical that they're going to shave 50% off of their bid to have this come in. So we may be back to the precast building, which is fine. We were trying to save some money by looking at an alternative or an alternate, and just so far the alternate hasn't worked.
Are they gonna, there again, we're just letting people bid on things. Are they gonna bid the same, if the precast can be done a certain way for 115, ask him to bid his the same way. If he can get any drawings or anything of the precast, I'm sure you have something you could show him.
We had, so Kevin Turkle, who was the architect for this building, he designed the bathroom.
Okay.
And when we discussed, and he did it for free, by the way. And when we discussed it with him, he said, look, I think we can design something that is less than that. And so the intent was to design a bathroom that is less than $115,000 to build. And so that's what he bid on. That's what the contractor, and we keep saying bid too, I just don't want to get mixed up here. This is a change, would be a potential change order to existing contract. So it's a request for change order, it's not an actual bid.
Right.
So Dave, to address your question, when the architect worked on the plans, he tried to make it as close to that precast building as
Right.
possible.
Okay. That's, there again, just to get the apples to apples thing, make sure everybody's trying to.
Yeah.
I realize precast is gonna be a little different, but.
U big by A big.
Yeah, like, how many square foot?
I don't have that in front of me, I can look for it.
400?
So it was a male female bathroom and a maintenance shed area in between kind of thing.
Yeah, so in between the bathrooms, we're gonna store our telecommunications equipment. One of the 2023 budget items was cameras in the park. So we're ready for that, but we're not ready for that without the restroom cells. We're working on that.
Cinder block. I don't know, it seems like a lot. Hey, what do I know?
All right, so item number 9 is the request.
Sorry.
Item number 9 is the request from Holy Family Parish at what we all pretty much know, St. John's School. They now have a grade school soccer program. They are looking for fields. They first reached out to Plum Soccer, who sent them to us, and said, hey, listen, we'd like to be able to use 1 or 2 fields up at Larry Mills for their, what would essentially be like a junior high program. They've worked everything out with soccer. I've talked with the soccer board, and they can work around the schedule to make sure that they don't conflict with one another. But this would have to be an agreement between the borough and Holy Family Parish to be able to use the fields. I don't have a proposed agreement, but they need an answer on whether or not they'll be allowed to, so they can start scheduling their fall season. So that's why it's in front of you. Assuming that you will move forward with it, probably next month I'll have to have some sort of agreement that you can approve as well.
Discussion?
I think.
Figure out scheduling conflicts with everybody else that already uses Larry Mills.
So who uses Larry Mills right now? So, because it's junior high, so the games are at 3 and 4 o'clock. And so who uses Larry Mills at that time is actually not Plum Soccer, it's Plum Boro School District. Because that's when their junior high games are, at Larry Mills. So Plum Soccer is coordinating with everybody to get the schedules worked out. But they won't interfere with Plum Soccer, because Plum Soccer doesn't start until after, like 5 or 6 when.
Good. So agenda.
Item number 10 is the 2024 MMO calculation. I am presenting this to you as a heads up. This does not need to be an agenda item. The MMO, as you know, is the minimum municipal obligation that council must budget for each year. Just as a heads up, every 2 years, the boroughs, all municipalities in Pennsylvania are required to do an Act 205 report. That's an actuarial evaluation of the pension plan assets and a long-term projection of the long-term viability of the pension plan. As of right now, our plan is about 92% funded.
That's amazing. That's gotta be, that's really high.
It's pretty, compared to many other municipalities, we're in very, very good shape. However, the actuarial evaluation, the way it's set up under Act 205, it requires a number of different assumptions, and one of the key assumptions is the interest rate assumption. The interest rate's kind of misleading, because really what it means is the assumed amount of investment earnings that you will make annualized, right, over a 10-year period. So, for example, over the long term, the market in the United States over the last 50 years has averaged about 8%. A lot of municipalities 10, 15, 20 years ago were using as their interest rate assumption that 8%. But as we saw in 2008, different times, and most recently last year in the market, that shorter term average, not the 50-year average, but the 10-year average, has dropped down significantly for some municipalities. Our average, because of what took place in 2022, dropped considerably. About 6-7 years ago, we were at 8% for our interest rate assumption. The actuary, who is constantly trying to get us to lower the interest rate assumption, convinced us to reduce the interest rate assumption last time from 8% to 7.75%. So to put this in perspective for a plan of our size, which is about $17 million in assets, so a 0.25% roughly translates to an additional $50,000 to $75,000 each year in your MMO. So every time you reduce that, if you think of it that way, every time you reduce your interest rate assumption by 0.25%, you're assuming that you're going to have less earnings over time, so you got to put more money in. So that's about where you're at. Right now, don't shoot the messenger. Right now, the actuary is suggesting 6%. Now, I think that's unreasonable. I think that is entirely tied into the 2022 returns. Prior to that, our 10-year returns prior to 2022 was in double digits. It was like 11, almost 12%. So I was very comfortable with 7.75. It has dropped below 6 right now because of because how bad the market performed in 2022. I think that's an anomaly. I don't think that's the long-term projection for the market that anybody's predicting, but at the end of the day, there's the one thing I love to say to everybody that, like, I don't get to make any decisions here, you all just tell me what to do and I'll do it. This is the one thing actually in the ordinance that the actuary and the borough manager have to mutually agree upon the interest rate assumption. But I'm never gonna do that without without you guys agreeing with me. So he's pushing for a lower interest rate assumption, and by law, I must present the MMO to you at the September meeting for you to adopt the MMO. You do this every September. So between now and September, I need to work with the actuary and the finance committee on a mutually acceptable interest rate assumption. The only reason I'm presenting this to you is that it could significantly impact our MMO by 6 figures for the 2024 budget. So again, not an agenda item for this month, just a heads up, it will be an agenda item next month.
Okay, thanks, Mike.
Item number 11 is a National Fitness Campaign grant application. Actually, Jim and I were approached by the National Fitness Campaign, and I actually have this up on my screen here. I don't know what I did here. Is this it here? No. No, it's in here. So I don't know if you guys have ever seen these. I actually have seen them. Many municipalities in the country, but even around Western PA are starting to.
South Park has one.
Hampton has one. Upper St. Clair has one. So basically what it is this. It's a fitness pad that's year-round, there's no maintenance. It's nothing needs to be removed, taken in or out of it. It stays outside all year long. And then you have an app program that people can come up and do the fitness program and track their fitness through it. The National Fitness Campaign is willing to donate, well, we have to apply for the grant, and that's the item is for you to authorize us to fill in to make the application of about $30,000, which will cover the cost of the pad there that you see, the blue, that's that tough play surface kind of thing, all the physical gym equipment, if you will, okay? What we would be responsible for is the concrete pad. So the grant application, if they accept that our application and award it to us, they would basically be building this for us. We just have to make a pad, a concrete pad that they can put it on, and that would be our expense.
What's the size of that?
It's 36 by 36. That's from, if you see the sidewalk where that flares out here, you can see my mouse here, it's 36 from that point to the back of this wall, and then 36 from this sidewalk to this sidewalk. And so we were responsible for this, they would be responsible for the interior. And the pad underneath that, obviously.
We have a guesstimation of what that pad would run?
Well, I'm hoping to, notwithstanding the cost of the concrete, we're doing almost all of the work in-house. Concrete's very expensive right now. By the way, I just want to point out that E.J. Prosser, the guy that was up here that gave testimony earlier, he's building the amphitheater. He's our contractor for the amphitheater, and I think he's doing a fantastic job, by the way.
When's it gonna be done?
we think will be done before Labor Day.
Oh, great.
In any event, I'm gonna say I think high end, and this would have to be a 2024 budget item for capital improvement, but I'm gonna say we're gonna be somewhere in that $30,000 to $40,000 range for the concrete and everything. So, now we are proposing to put it right down here on the other side of the amphitheater. I've actually been having the dirt that they're excavating from the amphitheater put down there, I don't know if you've noticed. And then we'll have to build a retaining, we will build a retaining wall around the back of it to be able to put the pad in, and, you know, have the geotech engineer, you know, confirm that it can, you know, we'll go through the necessary steps for all that.
Is there parking down there?
There actually can be parking down there, yes. Now, there's only a few spots, and there's only a little limited area for it, but these places, other than when they do like different events, these places only get like 2 or 3 people at a time.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay. Item number 12 is an executive session item to discuss the Olympus Energy easement they're requesting to run away. We've talked about this before. We just have a specific question regarding the agreement itself to discuss in executive session. And then finally, the last item is the police department unused equipment. Last month, we asked council to consider donating our old police department phones, because they're new phones, but we just swapped out vendors. So the phones are still very new and in good working condition, to North Braddock. At the time, if you remember last week, we talked about actually donating them to the soon-to-be formed joint police force. They're not completely done yet and ready. So the recommendation is that North Braddock will be part of that police force, and they're gonna be heading the project up. So the recommendation is just to donate to them.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay, 2 other things that are non-agenda items. The first one is, if you guys recall, council approved that National Service Line program a couple months ago. That's where you can get the National League of Cities Service Line Insurance Program for your water line and sewer line. You guys remember all this?
Right.
I just want to give a heads up to everybody, and also to the people watching, that they're going to be starting that kickoff mailing, so everybody in the community is going to get one of these letters. So when you get the question from the people that call you and say, what's this letter about, that's what it's about. And then finally, we are starting to plan for the ribbon cutting ceremony for this building, even though I know we're delayed, but we were waiting to get the amphitheater completed. We do think it will be completed by October 6th, so we're proposing that date. That is a Friday. We're proposing that date for the final, for the grand opening and ribbon cutting for the facility.
Great.
Can I ask when the aforementioned splash pad / ice skating ring might be started?
So the splash pad, the ice rink contractor is still behind on projects, and they're telling us that right now we're penciled in for them to be out here early spring. I mean, it just is what it is anymore with the trades. But I know I keep giving you guys promises that it'll be done by, but we think it'll be done by summertime for the splash pad, for the kids to use, the community to use the splash pads.
We're still putting them in the same spot. Right?
Absolutely, the design hasn't changed at all.
Okay.
And by the way, I would like to point out that we have, through various means, the staff has been able to get over $500,000 and funds towards the construction of this.
That's awesome.
And we're still working on some more, so
Great.
That's great.
that's all I have.
Okay.
We do have 2 executive sessions.
Yes, we are going to adjourn, not adjourn. Yes, we have executive session. Oh, I'm sorry, ma'am. Public comment, do you have anything you'd like to add? Okay, well, thanks for attending. Okay, and we will be leaving for an executive session. Thank you.